Welcome to the Mind and Body Strong podcast, a place for women to redefine their relationship with food and their body, tune into their inner wisdom, and become the best version of themselves. My name is Katie Pijanowski, and I'm an anti-diet and body image coach, certified personal trainer, and lover of all things travel, brunch, and personal growth. Join us each week as we share insightful conversations with guest experts, along with my own personal stories and teachings that aim to help you reconnect your mind, body, and spirit while releasing old beliefs, dogma, and expectations that no longer serve you. Each episode is packed with nuggets of wisdom that are sure to leave you feeling inspired, challenged, and empowered to take action in your own life. Shy away from tough topics? No way. In this space, we welcome things including mental health, sex, diversity, eating disorders, weight stigma, and all that comes with having a human experience. I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me, so grab a notebook, pen, and some headphones, and let's dive in. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited for you to hear this conversation today. As I was rethinking over the summer to reinvent the Mind and Body Strong podcast, and what I mean by that is for the past 2 years, it's been like this evolution of me and bringing on these new guests. And I wanted to take the space over the summer to really hone in on what the message is with the Mind and Body Strong podcast. I want it to be a place where we talk about those hard conversations, where we intertwine a lot more of spiritual conversations on all of the things that we do. Because what I've experienced in my own personal journey in helping many clients is that wellness and health is such a multidimensional space. And this conversation is going to speak true to that spirituality piece, which I'm very, very excited about. And I am bringing to you a friend of mine. Her name's Emmy. She actually lives in Australia, which is super cool. So we got to chat and we met through our health coaching school. And in this conversation, we dive into a lot of different things. I just love how the conversation flowed. I felt energized after speaking to her. And some of the things that you're going to hear in today's conversation are going to include divine timing, offering yourself grace, truth, and how that feels like clarity in your body. It feels like peace. It's not this black and white like energy that we have going on, like this or that, right or wrong. It just feels like clarity and peace. That's what Emmy really resonates with there. We also really talk about releasing control and being able to trust in yourself and trust in spirit. We also really talk about stepping into and validating your own strength and worth, which is, of course, something I'm super passionate about, is sourcing that from within. It's something that I'm continuously being guided back to, and this conversation is going to really bring that through. So grab a notebook. You're going to need it because there is so many amazing nuggets in this conversation. Let's dive in. All right, welcome back to the Mind and Body Strong podcast. I'm super excited because I have a friend of mine here who I know through my health coaching school. Her name's Emmy. And we actually had this is like a long time coming, this conversation, because you and I connected a year ago. And it's been so fun before pressing record today, just catching up. And just for a frame of reference for our audience, it's currently just past 6 a.m. in Texas, and Emmy is in Australia.
Yeah.
And then what time is it there by you, Emmy?
It is almost 9:30.
Yeah.
At night. Yeah.
Which is
and
just
I felt
so cool.
so bad, like waking you up so early. I'm so sorry.
No, I am so more than happy, first of all, to have this conversation. And second of all, I'm usually up at this time anyways, because I go teach at the studio.
That's amazing. Okay. I'm glad you're an early bird. Otherwise I was like, oh my God, what if she's like, she doesn't do well in the morning?
No, I actually love the mornings. It's when I'm the best. So this is like catching me in my prime. So I'm excited.
I love the mornings too. I thought for the longest time that I really didn't like mornings. And I was like, I convinced myself, I'm not a morning person. I don't like mornings. And then I had a baby. And my baby wakes up so early. And then I'm like, wow, mornings are amazing. Mornings are like the best time.
Yeah, it's
you
like
feel
quiet.
yeah, there's so much clarity. I don't even know how to describe the feeling of like walking in and the sun is rising, and I'm just like, feels so peaceful.
It
Yeah.
does. Yes. We both got our mugs. I'm sure you have like tea or something. Well, I have coffee,
I have water.
water in your
Should
cup.
I should have made tea, but you
So
know.
perfect. We were just talking about before we pressed record. Emmy has such a cute little mug. It's like a Santa Claus, and we were talking about bringing like the
Yeah.
spirit of Christmas wherever we go.
Yes.
Even though it
Yes.
is
Who
May, and
says
this will come out in
that?
August.
Oh wow, is it coming out in August?
Yes.
That's crazy. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
Mm.
So I am so excited to have this conversation with you. So, just to help my audience understand a little bit more about you, I would love to just start off having you explain a little bit about your story, like your new YouTube channel, what kind of inspired that. And then we'll just kind of
Yeah.
continue from there to open up this fun conversation.
Okay. Totally. Okay. I don't even know where to begin. So I studied to be a health coach. That was when I was like, you know what? I'm ready to embrace the holistic healing thing. Like I've done a lot of physical healing myself, and I've realized the importance of holistically looking at the body and holistically healing the body. And at the time, like I had slowly begun spiritually awakening. So, that process is such a long process, but it was so transformative and it was such a profound experience for me that as much as I was so passionate about holistic healing and health coaching, I started really dedicating myself and becoming really passionate about my spirituality. And that's really where like this birth for or to become a spiritual teacher, like to share my experience, to share what I've gone through, not just physically healing myself, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually opening myself. And that's when I was like, like I feel the calling. I feel this, what is it? Drive to share my story and share the intimate parts of me that I haven't opened up to anyone about. And so I was like, like I've had this YouTube idea in my head for so long, but I think now is the time that I actually commit to it. And that commitment part was that big step for me. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I've just started that and I'm so excited about it. Like, I know it feels so right. And when something feels right, it motivates you so much and you feel that passion inside of you. I feel like it's ignited again and I'm like really excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can just hear
Yeah.
it in your voice, the excitement and the clarity that you've now had. And it's even from our conversation like last year, we had a really awesome conversation then, and just to see how you've transformed to more of this like holistic spiritual awakening,
Mm-hmm.
sharing my experience and allowing yourself to be seen and heard, which I think is something that
Yeah,
can be so scary and vulnerable. And
definitely. It's such a big step. And you're like, oh my God, can I do this? Should I do this? And then you do it and you're like, huh, that wasn't
yeah,
so bad. Okay. Okay. Next video. Like next
right,
one, next step.
right.
Yeah.
And you had even said before we press record about each time you go to sit down and do a video, it's like you can be in your head. And I feel the exact
Right.
same way when I go to do podcast interviews or when I'm doing solo episodes. Sometimes, like even after 90 episodes of the podcast, there's
Wow.
still times where I'm like, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. What else am I going to tell these people? But you just like show up and you share your experience. And I think it's beautiful to see how you've allowed yourself to just follow what feels good instead of forcing,
Yeah,
which I feel like can happen a lot.
absolutely. I think, okay, so I don't know if you know, have you heard of Abraham?
Oh,
Abraham
yes. I
Hicks,
listen to her
Esther
on
Hicks.
YouTube all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. That's exactly what I've been studying and I've been really dedicating myself towards is feeling good, following the feeling of inspiration rather than forcing action.
Yeah.
Because so many of us learn forced action to make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, we all think that by doing the thing and doing the action, that's going to produce the best results or that's going to produce results. And it's true, it does produce results, but not to the same extent or to the same capacity that inspired action can produce. And I really awakened to this. And I'm really trying to implement it in my own life and really going with the flow and not trying to push against anything. Yeah.
I totally resonate with that. And I love that you also resonate with Abraham Hicks because she always has such profound ways of explaining things. And I actually just listened to her the other day, but one of the things she says quite often, I'm sure you've heard her say this about like the stream, and there's like a, flowing stream. And if you picture yourself like rowing a kayak or canoe up the stream, it's like obviously kind of hard. You're like battling the waves. And if you were to just let go and allow the stream to carry you, it would bring you to where you need to be. And that letting go piece of allowing yourself to follow that inspired inspiration, I think can be so scary for people.
So, because it's like, am I doing enough? Like, I have never in my life allowed myself to just be and to just allow things to flow for me. So many of us think that we need to push, 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 never stop, don't stop, like keep going. And it's not true. Like you need to give yourself a break.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. And especially as we kind of come off of this 1.5 year long global pandemic where everyone in the world has experienced some type of change in our lives. I think it's so important to reframe and bring us back to the fact that we've gone through this really kind of traumatic and crazy experience to just allow ourselves some freaking grace throughout all of this. And through following inspired inspiration, I think there's a word that you kept using before we came on. It was like trust. And so I would love to know for you, what has helped you kind of step into that self-trust and let go of some of the old stories that have been keeping you from like sharing your experience, for example, on your YouTube channel?
Okay. So I love that question so much. Let me just gather what I want to say.
Yeah, like marinate
I think
in it.
that this trust is, as much as it is the trust of myself, it is so much the trust of spirit. Like the guidance, the signs, all of it is like, I don't even see it. I don't even see the messages that, are inspired through me as my own. I don't claim that anymore. I trust that it's a higher consciousness or, my loving spirit guiding me and really awakening myself to their wisdom and to their guidance. And it's like learning to trust them, learning to trust in spirit and in my own inner spirit, my soul.
It is so beautiful.
It is.
Yeah, that trust it, and you'd mentioned just like trusting in that spirit, that like inner soul like connection, instead of
definitely
going outside and trying to resource all these things from our external environment, which is what we're taught to do in this human experience. And it's something that, all of us still are conditioned to do in many ways. But when we can take that step inwards and learn how to trust that guidance. And I love how you have also recognize that a lot of these inspirations are coming from this like higher purpose. It's like maybe it
Yeah,
doesn't make sense
definitely.
sometimes, but you just feel in your body that this is where I need to go.
Yeah, you know the feeling of truth when it feels like clarity, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, for me, it's just learning to trust in the divine plan, right? So, divine timing. And as you said, giving myself grace to not necessarily be where I want to be, but remembering that, I'm on my path. And as long as I'm making small steps every single day forward, that's enough because
Mhm.
eventually I will get there. And then it's trusting that process that my soul knows is for
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
that's been
that's,
so amazing for me. Yeah, definitely.
yeah, absolutely. There was the couple of things I had wrote down as you were talking right there, and you had said, "I know the feeling of truth and clarity." And I think a big practice of what I've learned in my own experience, what I'm teaching my clients as of recently, is learning how to feel into their bodies, because
Mm-hmm.
through all of the expectations and through the work I do, it's like releasing a lot of that diet culture mentality, feeling like you need to look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole expectation, that whole concept can really leave you being disembodied with yourself and not
Mm-hmm.
actually being in your body, experiencing your emotions. And for me personally, being able to actually
Definitely.
sit and experience my emotions was probably the hardest thing. It's something I didn't know I needed to do, but over the last year of working with coaches
Yeah,
and doing my own self exploration, it's been something that I've realized has been a really important part of my own spiritual practice, is connecting with my body. So my question for you is
absolutely.
this feeling of like truth and clarity. Do you know where you sense that in your body? Like what does it feel like for you?
Oh, wow. Okay. I haven't made so much of like the physical connection as much as I have just like the emotional connection, the
Yeah, I love that.
feeling that I feel. It's like when something is true or the truth for me, and we all have our individual truths. I can't express that enough. But when something is true to me or true to anyone, it always feels like clarity. It always feels peaceful. It
Mhm.
never it never feels like confusion or worry or doubt. And learning that has really helped me trust my intuition, like trusting what is the actual message that I'm supposed to get
Mhm.
from, whether it's people or things I'm listening to. It's like, does this resonate for me? And just learning what it feels like to resonate with something, what clarity feels like,
Yeah.
and then picking that up and becoming more sensitive to it yeah, has been really important for me. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that speaks to this journey of self trust that we keep coming back to, and just learning what that feels like in your own
mm-hmm.
experience and
Definitely.
identifying that it's different for everyone. It's not this cookie
Yeah,
cutter experience.
no, it's
And
not. It's not. And your truth evolves over time as you do. So
mhm,
it's okay to have something resonate for one period of your life. And then maybe a year or 2 years later, maybe it's not as relevant for you anymore. And you found a more evolved truth that's
yeah,
slightly different, but probably, somewhat there's like a depth to
mhm,
truth. And I think, yeah, like something I stumbled upon recently was that the truth isn't black and white. It's not, you know, I love that saying. What is it? Um, every truth is a half truth.
mm,
And I think the reason why is because the truth is like multidimensional. And so we're all looking at the truth from different angles, right? And it's only by, as a collective, we expressing our truths, our own individual truths, that we can then have a better idea and a better sense of what the real truth looks like. I hope that comes across, like, I hope that the viewers or the listeners can understand that it's really
No, I totally understand what you're saying, because
okay,
that black and white mentality is seen a lot when I'm working with my clients to really just pull themselves away from that diet culture, that over exercising mentality, this idea that they need to conform their bodies to fit into these certain boxes, right? And with that black and white spectrum, it's like you're either eating super perfect according to X plan, or you're completely fallen off. And
it's the good or bad.
It's the good or bad.
Always, yeah.
They're like the right or wrong, the good or bad. That's the black and white thinking. And what I love that you're acknowledging is this gray space, this multidimensional place where, like you had so beautifully displayed, where we get to all come to sharing our own personal truths, and how that can open up so much more understanding and realizations for ourselves, which I think is something
it creates so much more depth in the truth and what is true. And
how like when you think of that like black and white mentality, it even feels kind of flat when you even express it. And in this middle ground is like this plethora of, like you said, depth, and I think color, and just that's where the magic can really happen. We can allow ourselves to be in this place, which I think can be interpreted as this place of unknown, because it's not put into a specific box.
It's not a box, which people don't like. I mean, I think it's the human consciousness. The brain really doesn't like when you can't put things into categories and black and white. It can be, that's when you really have to lean on your soul's knowing, instead of relying so much on your mind to try to understand something. Leaning on the inner knowing that's within you is so key.
100%. And I think that's a big piece I want to continue to carry through this whole podcast as well. It's called Mind and Body Strong, and it started off as very much, learning how the inner workings of the mind and learning how to connect with the body. If we don't lean on that soul piece, that purpose piece, that finding our truth, like that's like, I feel like the center of all of these other amazing things that get to happen.
That's at the root, and it's when we address the root that everything else falls into place.
100%. Yeah, I love that. So multidimensional. And so I know that in the beginning you kind of talked about like the spiritual awakening that you were having. Do you feel like there was an event that kind of really sparked it? Was there a multitude of events that really brought you to where you're at today and where you can go?
It was a very, very profound relationship that has come to an end now. But when, oh my gosh, how do I even, okay, so like until I had met this person, basically my whole life, never been spiritual, never had any kind of religion or spiritual, what is the word I'm looking for? Like I've never been exposed to anything spiritual. So I was, very ignorant towards spirit or towards God and anything spiritual. And I was really closed off. I was so closed off. I didn't want to hear about it, couldn't talk about it. And then I met this person, who I truly believe is a soulmate, definitely. And he just opened me up in my mind, as in I was curious about it, and then opened my soul up, really. Like my heart and my soul. And it was when I got pregnant that I realized this is for a reason. Like this is happening for a reason. This is this is exactly it. Like, this is why I've awakened, is so that, like, when I did get pregnant, I wouldn't doubt that. And I would have this trust in the universe, in life, that, I could do it. I could be a mom. I was so young, I was 20. Mm-hmm. So it was like a big deal for my family and for, my friends and like everything. It was like, there was so much, I guess, worry and doubt around me. But I knew for the first time in my life, I was like, no, this is right. This is what was meant to be. And the reason why I've awakened is because, I'm meant to be a mom. Like, I meant to have met this person, to fall in love, to have my spiritual awakening. It's all happening for a reason. And I didn't really know at the time to the extent, but that I know now. But it's just, that trust that began blossoming back then. Yeah.
So beautifully expressed, Emmy. It's wonderful to see how you started off very closed and not even wanting to hear any part of, relating to spirit, relating to God or the universe. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And reflecting upon my own experiences, I feel like relationships I've had, specifically romantic relationships, but also relationships with friends and parents, have opened me up, because it's like through that lens of love, it's like now you are open, and you mentioned your heart and your soul feeling open to these new curiosities of like what could happen. And it's like that all progressed perfectly to lead you to what you were about to be experiencing, which is becoming a new mom.
Yeah, absolutely. Becoming a new mom, and then realizing my soul, awakening my soul. That's really what I see it as. Is up until that point, I wasn't connected to my soul. I wasn't living in my soul's truth and my purpose and any of that, because I didn't know what that even was. And then by awakening this, I've now come to realize how spiritual, how excited I am about spirit and about spiritual things. Like, wow, I am a very spiritual person. And I didn't even realize, because I was so closed off my whole life. Yeah. And then it was like, I don't at all, think it was a bad thing or it was time wasted. That period of my life where I was so closed off and so depressed was really, I think, my greatest teaching as a spiritual teacher now, is that, I've been there. I've been in that dark, lonely, meaningless place, where nothing matters and it's all dark and gloomy and there's no hope. And now where I am today, it's like night and day. It really is. Even in my body as well. That's the thing. Like, I've gone through so much physical, mental, emotional, all of it. Spiritual growth. Yeah.
So amazing. Yeah. It just kind of opened up again, this like multidimensional piece of like, wow, this is just the beginning of what I get to experience. And
I think right.
I feel like it's so fun getting into like really recognizing that spirit is like really in so much that we do. And I know you said that
everything that we do.
Everything. Where do you feel like it shows up most presently for you? Like, where do you feel like you're connected the most?
Oh, wow. I live day and night, 24/7 in my spirituality, in my spirit, and, always consciously thinking of it. But, when I look in my baby's eyes and I see the purity and his soul, and I just think, wow, am I so incredibly lucky, so incredibly fortunate to not only have, been able to birth you, like, wow, my physical body, but wow, the fact that this soul, this human being, this being has chosen me to be its mother, like that is probably where I feel it the most. And I'm just so
Wow.
overwhelmed in gratitude and in just, it's like a feeling I can't even describe, that when he looks at me with such pure eyes, like it just overwhelms me with so much love and joy. Yeah.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I think it's amazing to recognize that seeing that purity in your son is like this reflection of, maybe recognizing that in you, because that's
Yeah.
always like, we can't see what we don't recognize in ourselves.
Wow. Yeah, that's so true. I
Yeah.
love that so much. Yeah,
And
we all, at the core of us, at the core of our being, our souls are pure and beautiful. Yeah.
how we get layered on all these expectations and all
Yeah.
these,
All the filters. Yeah,
yeah,
layers and
all the
layers.
filters.
And then we get so detached from the truth of ourselves. But then when we come back to that truth, right, and come back to who we really truly are, we realize we are all the same. We are all the same, and we are all so beautiful, so powerful. We came here to live such incredible lives. Yeah.
Yeah, I truly believe that all of us have that power. We're all interconnected at the very core. Like, we are all this, like, our bodies make us separate, but our souls are connected. It makes us whole, like, right? And so you had mentioned, and you even just like showed it with your hands about, like, kind of releasing all these things to come back to your truth, right? So what are some of the things that maybe you've had to let go of in order to come back to this truth?
Wow, I love that question too. I've actually just filmed a video called Releasing Toxicity, or releasing things that no longer serve. But I haven't
Amazing.
named the video yet, but this is what I talk about. It's releasing things that don't serve us anymore and learning to forgive as well. So those two have been really hand in hand for me. And I think in my experience, like learning or awakening to the things that, I was doing, the habits that I had, the actions that I was involved in, or, finding myself doing that weren't serving me, coming to awareness around that was really important in letting go of those filters and coming back to the truth of myself. So, whether it was addictions, and it could be, addiction to food, addiction to people. I didn't realize how codependent I was until, I was in a situation where I had no one but myself, and spirit. I had no one but myself and spirit. And then it was like, you are looking for love in the wrong places. You are looking for love externally. You are looking for people to hold you up and, validate or whatever, show you your worth, when you need to know your own worth. You need to know your own strength. You need to know your own power as a soul, as a person, And for me, like, just spending so much time almost alone. I was around people, but a lot of it was like me really detaching from the world, detaching from other people, and sitting with myself. Yeah, that was like very profound in my spiritual journey. It was necessary for me to realize the truth of myself. Yeah. And release the things that I was holding on to that weren't serving me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So beautiful. I think that's a piece that I'm also in, is learning how to have that trust in myself while there's people around, but to always come back and be guided back to yourself. And it sounds like the experiences that you've had have been, it's like leading you. It's like spirit was like, no, Emmy, like come back here. Like you have everything you need. You don't need anything else. You're looking for love in the wrong places. It's already here. It's already available to express.
It's already available to you. Source, God, whatever you want to call it, spirit, is nothing but love, unconditional love. And if we can all tap into that, you know, if we all did, there wouldn't be addiction, there wouldn't be the need to fill voids, there wouldn't be codependency, there wouldn't be so much toxicity in our lives, because we're filling our own cups, we're filling our own hearts with that love that we seek, that we are depriving ourselves of, really.
Yes, we definitely are depriving ourselves of that love and searching for it in external things, or trying to make up for it in habits.
You're never gonna find enough of it there.
Right.
That's the thing.
And you're that's always where gonna be you see a lot of people crumbs. Like go to, like, say, for example, someone feels happiness is a relationship, and then they get the relationship and they're like, this isn't it. And while they love that person, and they're like, something's still not there. You see that
so much with career. Have you noticed? Like, people are striving for this career. They get it and they're like, oh, I thought it would be more than this. I thought it would fill me, fill that hole that I thought needed to be filled with this thing, this career, this job, this money, you know, this lover. But then they have that thing, and they, exactly as you said, they realize like, I'm missing something. And that missing piece is that real self-love. Real self-love.
For many, I've seen it happen. And I think with the pandemic, I feel like more people have come to this awakening earlier, that it's not the career, it's not the relationship, it's not what my body looks like. For, you know, that was something that I thought I needed for so long to have validation and feel successful, is that I had to look a certain way. And then when I did look a certain way, quote unquote, that was considered healthy and strong, and like, oh, you look like a trainer. And I still looked at myself in the mirror and thought, this isn't it. Like, I still have so much hurt on the inside. I thought it was supposed to fix me, and it didn't. And that was a hard truth, like an awareness coming to that.
It kind of sucks, because you realize, I thought this would make me happy. Why aren't I happy? I feel very, like, I can totally relate, because, you know, after I had given birth to my son, you know, I just felt so low in terms of my body image. Like, it wasn't, and you would think it would be like, because I don't look the same, or like my body doesn't look good, but it was kind of the opposite for me. Like, I bounced back so quickly, and I had big boobs for the first time, and I had long hair, and I just felt so insecure. And I didn't know why. Like, I was like, why am I so insecure? And why is it that when I look at myself in the mirror, I don't feel beautiful anymore? You know, and it was because I wasn't internally validating or looking for that confirmation of how beautiful I was externally. As you said, I wasn't giving it to myself, and I didn't know how to, because all my life, my whole life, I was relying on other people to tell me that I was beautiful, to tell me that I looked great or whatever, and to hold my self-esteem up.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I realized this isn't right. This isn't the way to do it. Like, this is just not right. And yeah, that's when I decided I would shave my head. And I
Yeah.
like completely went ahead and did that. That was really scary, but it was liberating because I knew I needed to fix this internally. You
Mm-hmm.
know, this isn't something external that I need to sort out. Yeah. And it has been a really liberating experience for me. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just feel in how you express that, how the liberation has come through and being able to, like, again, be guided back to your inner truth. It's like
Yeah.
every single experience is always bringing you back.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's such a beautiful
Awakening
thing.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The past like 2 years of my life have been transformative by, like, I can't even express how much growth I feel like I've done.
Yeah.
It's like I've aged 10 years and I haven't, you know?
It's so
Like I
funny that you
just,
say that, Emmy, because I just wrote something in the notes on my phone like late last night, and I've lived here in Texas for 4 years, but I feel like I've
yeah,
lived 3 or 4 lifetimes in this 4 years
yeah,
because of
I
all the
love
growth.
that. Yeah, all the growth. And it's so incredible how quickly it can happen
Mm,
when it's the time that it needs to happen. And that's the thing is, like, again, going back to the trusting in divine timing thing, right?
mhm, mhm.
We all have our own divine timing, and trusting that, my timing and your timing isn't necessarily going to be the same.
Mhm.
So we can't put numbers on our spiritual growth, on our spiritual journeys, which a lot of us want to do.
Right?
But it's like, yeah, it's like there ain't no number.
Yes.
You can drag out the process if you want to for your whole life, or you
Hmm.
can go through that uncomfortable growth. You can experience that. Yeah.
Yes.
But remember that there are going to be growing pains, especially when you grow rapidly, so much growing pains. I remember feeling like, oh my God, this is so intense. I am like, this feels like growing pain.
Yes.
And it was funny because externally, from an outsider's perspective, from my parents' perspective, from my friends' perspective, I haven't changed that
Mhm.
much. I
Mhm.
shaved my head, which is strange, but it was like, I wonder what's going on with her, like, for me, it was so much internal change that was happening. And it was like, yes, I have had a baby, and that's, great. And that's big change, of course. But like, it wasn't comparable to the spiritual growth that I was experiencing. Yeah,
Mhm.
that was really the major shift in my life.
Yeah. I love that you acknowledge that on the outside, it's like I look like I'm the same person. And yet I am so different because of the
Yeah,
internal experience in growth and growing pains that I've now gone through and that I continue to be led to. And that to
definitely.
me is one of the like most least celebrated transformations. We see so many
Oh
physical
my God.
transformations, right? We see
Yeah,
transformations of like our house
that
is
is
being
so
updated, but like
true.
what did you have to do internally to get to
Yeah,
those places? We don't ask
that is
ourselves that
so
enough.
true. That is
Mhm.
so true. And when you start learning about, manifestation,
Mhm.
that's all about the internal change first.
Yes.
Get that internal change, and then the external will follow.
Yes.
And our society, like the world, works in backwards. Like, it works looking at the externals, trying to externally maneuver things to, change the inside. But it's like, you have to start
It's
from
focusing on that
within.
like action place. It's like, oh, do
Yeah.
this, do this, do this, do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize from operating in that place that it's not sustainable because you still believe this other thing. Like we talked about intentions before we started, and the intention behind that, energy behind that action, the action could stay the same, but if you change the energy and the belief behind it, the force that now comes through is different.
Definitely. And this is where you see people burning out. You know?
Yes.
People are tired because they're working too hard. They're pushing themselves too hard against, like you said, with the flow of the river, they're going upstream, paddling like crazy, trying to get to where they want to be, when really a lot of it is going with the flow and allowing life to carry you instead.
Yeah, allowing life to carry you. Wow. It's something I am still continuously coming back to, is learning to release that control, because that
I think we will forever for our whole lives.
Yes, and I hope so, because it brings us back to that. At least for me, it's like this humbling process, and I still have many of the thoughts that go through my head that says, you need to do more, you need to step up, you need to control. Those thoughts
You're
still
not
come
doing enough.
All those things are still there, but because of all the growth I've done over the last, especially year, 2 years, I hear them and I see them and I acknowledge them, but the action doesn't carry through to that like anxious action where I feel like I need to like do.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I know what this is. This is an old pattern that I no longer believe. And I now want to step into this place of, it gets to be easy. I get to receive. I get to be me, and everything comes to me. And it's like you said, and all in divine timing, and releasing that control. That is so hard for people.
It's so hard, because the world that we live in is so heavily masculine energy dominated.
We've been rewarded for that our whole lives.
Masculine energy talks all about action and doing and, going after. Feminine energy is all about allowing and receiving and trusting in our ability to receive. And I feel like becoming a mom was really a huge awakening of that feminine energy within myself. Because for once I felt balanced between the action and the doing, the masculine energy, and the feminine of allowing and receiving. That's what we all need to find, is that balance of yin and yang, right?
Yes, the yin and yang, and we all have all of that. But like you said, our world is very much driven in that masculine energy, and we've been rewarded, even as females, to perform in that way, because there's this mentality around receiving and how that could be considered lazy and not doing enough, right? But what if it just gets to be so easy? You don't have to strive for anything. You just get to be. And your desires have already been received, and they're already coming your way. You're already being led to everything that you need to grow into that person you need to be, to have the thing you desire.
Yeah, definitely. I think that people, again, going back to that trust thing, don't trust the universe, the power that creates worlds enough. And that's really why the spiritual awakening, the spiritual growth is so key and important, is because we then finally realize that spirit, that God, that higher intelligence is trustworthy, is making things happen for me, even if I'm not taking all these actions all the time. It's like, you only need to do the right actions to get the results.
Inspired actions, like you had mentioned earlier.
Inspired actions of your soul. Your soul sees all, knows all, it knows the best path for you, the easiest path for you. And if we can trust that and trust that we're doing enough when we feel inspired and we take that action, then everything falls into place. That's what I really believe. Yeah.
I 100% agree. And this has been just a beautiful unfolding of being able to express so many of these things that have been on my heart too, because I think a lot of people need to hear more of that side of learning how to trust yourself and share your voice. I feel like that's a big mission for me is having women feel confident in sharing their voice. It's something that most of my young adult life and growing up that I was afraid to do because I was limiting myself by all the expectations of what I should look like and how I needed to perform, and releasing that has given me
how other people will see you and
releasing all those and coming back to your truth and understanding that it's important and how sharing that can awaken someone else's truth. Like that's what keeps me coming back to, no, I need to share. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I probably will say some of the wrong things and I'll change how I feel later. And like you said, sometimes we have those understandings and then we are led to something else and we understand it in a different way. And like, it's okay.
It's okay for it to be a process.
Yes.
Yeah. And allowing ourselves that grace, right? Throughout the process is like, you don't expect a child to be able to walk straight away. You let them tumble, you let them, fall, trip over. We need to allow ourselves to also make mistakes and to not be perfect and to maybe not have everything, the way that we want it to be immediately. But then seeing it as a process of getting to where we want to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And that grace and trust is a central theme we keep coming back to. And I also want to add the layer of not judging yourself for where you're at, because
coming from a loving place always. Yeah.
Yeah. I was having this conversation with a friend the other day about how sometimes it can be really hard to build awareness around where we're at because we're judging ourselves for not being to where we want to be. But until we can allow ourselves to be where we are without judgment and open our awareness without judgment again and be curious, we can't get to where we're going. So you're better off just, again, allowing that trust, allowing some grace, releasing that self-judgment and just knowing that all of the things, the hardships and the challenges that we're experiencing are leading us to that evolution of like coming back to ourselves.
Absolutely. That is so right. I love that so much.
Yes. Yeah. This has just been so fun, Emmy. And I feel like we could just continue talking for like hours.
No.
Because there's so many like layers that we could like continue to go upon.
Yeah.
But I know you're going to continue to share all of these stories and these spiritual awakenings on your YouTube channel. So I know that's a place that people can find you, and we'll link all of that in the show notes as well. But is there anything you want to kind of, any last final thoughts, any last little pieces to anyone out there who really found this impactful?
I think the number one thing is, coming from that loving space, right? And making sure that no matter where we are in our journeys, in our process, in our life experience, no matter what, if we're still studying or if we're not in the right job, like if we're lost or if we're confused or maybe if we're depressed, it's okay. It's okay. And you can be a loving support to yourself. Be your best friend, be your own supporter, because you don't have to stay, you won't stay there forever. You have the power within yourself to grow and to keep going and to make this a part of your story, make this a part of the phoenix rising from the ashes. Yeah.
Love that. So amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience, your wisdom, and opening up these really important conversations. And I can't wait to hear the feedback from everyone. And thanks for joining us from Australia.
So much. No, thank you so much for inviting me. I was so excited, honestly, when you emailed me. I was like, yes, actually,
That divine
this
timing,
is the
my
right
friend.
timing.
Yes,
Yes,
that
that's
divine
right.
timing. And so wonderful it was. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you, Katie. I've had such a good time tonight talking to you.
Thank you so much for listening in to this week's episode of the Mind and Body Strong podcast. If you loved this episode, it would mean the absolute world to me if you could leave a 5-star rating and review, or share a screenshot of the episode on your social media platforms. This helps even more women be able to find the podcast and move towards their own personal transformation. Or come on over to Instagram and send me a DM. Let me know what you thought of the episode, or let me know about future topics you'd love to hear here on the podcast. Sending love to you no matter where you're at in the world, my friends. Until next week, take care.